Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our office are located in beautiful, warming downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week by my family, my crew. My oldest daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and her husband, my son-in-law, Robert Markham, who is our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist. Good morning, kiddies.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to create a reliable stream of income in the exact amount you want, when you want it, so you can do all the things you want to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing your healthcare needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when you're done enjoying your assets during your lifetime, we show you how to pass them on to the people you love, whether it's your spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of your money. And as your wealth managers, Aaron and I watch your money every single day to make sure you're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Again, gang, good morning, and good morning to everybody out in Radio Land. Thanks so much for tuning in to our show this morning. Certainly was a fun week in the markets. They continue to grow. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hit their all-time highs. Woohoo! Well, why not? You know, but is it the all-time high? It's the current all-time highs. Who knows where the market's going to go from here, but it isn't unreasonable to assume it's going to go up, up, up. Eventually it'll go down, 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 but I think we're in a, you know, but it will always recover. And you know, it's fun.
Historically, it has shown that it will recover.
Yes, it has shown that. And, you know, we're in an interesting time right now. The economy is showing strength, even though interest rates have been raised quickly. Unemployment is not growing. The Federal Reserve doesn't seem to be in any hurry to lower rates as a way to jack up the economy or to raise rates as a way to cool it down. We're having a presidential election here in about 10 months. The candidates are becoming reasonably clear about who we'll be choosing from. And other than that, this is a great country, but things are messed up. So, but the markets continue to grow, and that's because we know that markets move based on the expectations of investors on future earnings. And all this other stuff is really temporary. So it was a nice week this week in the market. Hopefully you're continuing to participate in that through your retirement plans, through your asset allocations. And we thought this week we'd like to have a little bit of different fun on the show. As you know, we are financial planners as well as wealth managers. We do get paid a fee by our clients to manage their assets, create that game plan, that asset allocation for them, and monitor that plan so they stay on track. But there are a whole lot of other things that we do, questions that folks have, financial situations that occur, that really, I think, maybe make us unique as far as coaches. And we're going to talk about a whole lot of different things this week. But I do want to remind folks that there are ways you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button and request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you happen to have a question during the show, and that's the easiest way to ask it, please send it to us, and we'll try to get to it live on the air. Or you can click on the lower left-hand side of the screen in the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and it is the second, I can't believe, day of February, if that's correct. So we have a brand new, I'm sorry, thank you, March. Went back in time for a moment. Time is moving fast, but Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about our new March newsletter?
Got some great articles there you're certainly going to want to read. First one being, why do workers take less paid time off than they can? 90% of workers said having paid time off is extremely important, whether they want to go to the doctors, they have a sick child at home, whatever the case is, they love having those days, but yet 50% said they take less time than they're entitled to. This article gives us some insights into some of those reasons, and I'll just give you a spoiler alert. A lot of times people don't want to take a time off because they don't want to leave more work for their coworkers, which is great. You never want to create...
Team players, we like that.
Company men and women, God bless them. Our next article, beware of these life insurance beneficiary mistakes. Generally life insurance proceeds aren't taxed, but there are exceptions. And the most common involves having 3 different people as the owner, insured, and beneficiary. This quote-unquote unholy triangle can create a taxable event. This article breaks down some things to consider to avoid that. And as an aside, it's never a bad idea to sit down with a professional to figure out the best way to structure these policies.
And also, if you have a policy and you're looking to make changes to it, it's also a key time to sit down with a professional to ensure that if you are transitioning ownership, if you're transitioning beneficiaries, if you're updating, obviously the insured is usually the only piece that can't be changed, that you're sitting down with a professional to ensure that you are properly making those changes so you don't create any events that would make your death benefit, which was once tax-free, now taxable to the beneficiary.
Absolutely.
Or create an event where somebody owes taxes for a transfer of value. So important to sit down with somebody, and you may want to go back to the individual who sold it to you because they did get paid.
It's never a bad thing.
Right.
And our next article, individual bonds versus bond funds. What's the difference? Bond funds and individual bonds can both provide an income stream, but there are important nuances and subtleties between them. This is a great article comparing and contrasting the two and giving you some insight into how they are the same and how they're different.
And this is a great article because bonds and fixed income are top of mind to people, especially in a changing rate environment. We went through a round of significant rate increases where many people were shying away from the bond side of the portfolio. And now that we are either into a settled rate environment with some consistency or potentially we may anticipate or potentially see some cuts this year in rates, people have decided that bonds have become significantly more attractive.
We were in a period of, I think it was 14 or 15 years of, I'm not going to say 0%. But
near zero?
Yeah. So this is, I'm kind of liking this normal rate environment, we'll call it.
It's great. I had a phone conversation with one of the clients a couple of days ago, and I was telling them how it's like Christmas morning for us every first of the month when we take a look at our money market account because as a little bit of we didn't have any money 15 years ago, so we didn't have anything to earn interest with. So we really hadn't had the opportunity to see our money earn money without having to be invested in equities in the market. So it has been a fun time to just open up that bank account and see, oh my gosh, we got a little interest here.
I'm a simple man, and I operate on simple premises, and one of them is that savers and should be rewarded for, having that delayed gratification with their dollars and putting them to the side. And it's nice to know that we're now in an environment where they are rewarded. So that's certainly a good thing.
Yes.
And our last article, why family businesses should have succession plans. For family businesses, succession plans are designed to ensure an orderly transfer of ownership and leadership to the next generation. But only 34% of family businesses have a robust, documented, and communicated plan in place. This article lays out a roadmap one might consider when putting such a succession plan in place, and I'm sure you and your dad can certainly speak to that.
We weren't implying anything, Dad. You can stay.
Well, we've had our game plan in place for almost 10 years now, so that's terrific.
Almost 10. I've been here for like 12 now.
Well, I didn't know if you were going to hang around.
Oh my God! I was on what are they called?
Internship.
Correct.
Well, it worked out very well. But and what's nice is we have been able to assist our clients as their advisors and helping them make these business transitions, because for most of our clients that are business owners, that asset that they have, that company stock, the value of their company, is usually the major asset in their portfolio. And understanding how to transition that either to outsiders or to insiders is in many cases a function of not necessarily capital transfer, but income continuation. So there are lots of options that are available to you, and it's fun for us because we've been involved in this. I certainly have been involved in doing this for almost 40 years with small business owners, and able to take that experience and assist our clients in doing that. This really could be a big and a key component to your retirement planning. So it's fun, as well as your estate plan.
And it looks like we have a very active and robust text line this morning, which is great. And our first texter writes, I'm in Illinois. I have Aetna through Trail Teacher Retirement. Are those always the best plans?
They are excellent plans, but they are also relatively expensive. I've definitely had the opportunity to work with a few people in Illinois using the Trail policies, and it's a great opportunity to just have a comparison. Take a look at what you have versus what you can purchase privately. There should never be any cost with anyone to work with. For example, if you give our office a call and chat with Frank, there's no cost or obligation to hear what the other alternatives are. And you just want to be clear about what those choices are, what benefits you might be losing and what benefits you might be adding. I know that sometimes for individuals, there's a fear that if you leave that retiree medical plan, you're never able to get back into it. But if you've made the determination that, hey, this isn't the best option out there for me, I can do a little bit better, it is very rare that you're going to say, let me go back to the thing that wasn't as good before, because all plans continue to progress over time. So if your plan has reached the point where these private policies have surpassed it in benefits, in cost, in opportunity for you, then it's very unlikely that the plan you have would then surpass these private policies. So if once you make the decision to change, I wouldn't be too concerned about having to get back into it.
And our next texter writes, good morning. My father recently passed away, and he was quite strategic with his money during his lifetime. He had an annuity which had a death benefit of, let's say, $350,000. Unfortunately, he had the trust as the beneficiary. I've been told there will be a 40% tax on his death benefit. Is there any way around that?
This is an interesting question because, Dad, we have just dealt with in a couple of instances when clients pass away and they've had their this would be a non-qualified annuity, is my guess. Most likely is that the death benefit has a taxable amount associated with it. But it's my understanding, and Dad maybe correct me here, is that as long as the money does not stay inside of the trust, if you're distributing it to benefactors, then those individuals will be able to take up the taxable amount on their tax return. And some annuity companies will give you options as to how that death benefit is paid out. It can be paid out over multiple years. It doesn't necessarily have to be taken in a lump sum to potentially reduce the taxation that each individual that's receiving some of this money will have to bear.
Yes, and I would certainly say that to our texter, you would want to go back to your attorney and determine whether or not the trust is what we would call a see-through trust, so that the proceeds of those annuities could flow to those beneficiaries. And again, as Aaron was saying, we've had several situations recently with this happening, and the process is optimally the money goes to the trust. What happens then is that the distributions from the trust are then considered trust distributions, which really nets out the trust in terms of trust income. The beneficiaries are picking up those distributions, and most likely part of it, if it was a non-qualified annuity, which it appears to be, part of that was principal recapture, which is what dad put into the contract or mom put into that contract, and the other part would be interest. And as Aaron mentioned, there are several ways that payouts can occur. Some companies, and we're going through one of these right now, we have 3 different annuity companies. One of them will permit a lump sum payout during the 5-year period, but that's the maximum amount of time that the payout can be deferred. One will permit us to do it as a withdrawal basis, so that at the end of 5 years, all of it has to be out of there, which is fine. And then we have another option as well. So timing those payouts, assuming that you have an option available, and then timing those payouts to make them tax efficient for you is real important. I think we may have even discussed this a couple of weeks ago, this particular situation where, and again with your texter, if this is a flow-through trust, we found that one of the beneficiaries, one of our clients, wasn't making the maximum contributions to his retirement plans. So by increasing his contributions to his retirement plans, he was able to then reduce his taxable income as a way on the other side to absorb the interest income for that portion of the annuity payout. And again, not to pull Rob's thunder, but we do know that technically when annuities are in a payout mode like that, all the interest that's accrued comes out first and then principal.
So just to go back for a second, mechanically what would happen is if the lump sum option is what you have selected and the trust has, let's say, 2 beneficiaries, when you receive the lump sum from the annuity company, you wouldn't want to withhold taxes because it's going to be paid directly to the trust. Then when you distribute the assets from the trust, and unfortunately most broker-dealers and annuity company, most broker-dealers, if you're having that trust set up with a bank or with a custodian like a broker-dealer, they aren't able to withhold taxes from after-tax accounts. But when you divide the assets against those 2 beneficiaries, that's when the taxation would come in. So instead of a 350, let's just say the full amount was taxable, 350,000. If we divide that by 2, then you have 175,000 per person of taxable income. So that's how you would want to determine, are there other ways, like my dad just mentioned, that we can reduce your taxes other places in order to offset the fact that you're going to have some taxes to pay.
Yes, and I think what really comes down to is that the actual 1099, which is going to be showing whatever portion of income that 175, using Aaron's example, the 175 is, let's just assume that 100,000 of that 175 is principal recovery. Only the 75,000 would be taxable. That's what's going to show up on the 1099 for you. So best place to start with your lawyer. Make sure the provisions are in there, and if not, because you can bypass, and it does make a lot of sense to bypass the income recognition on the trust level, because as was stated here, trust taxable rates are much higher than even the highest current individual income tax brackets. So good question. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line.
And speaking of that text line, we just had another one come through. Thankful for that. And our texter writes, I plan to retire at the end of the year. Having said that, when should I call your office to arrange a free coaching session?
At the end of the year? That sounds exciting.
It does.
Well, I would suggest if you're going to answer that question, if you're going to make a call, do it on Monday. Our staff will be in. If you can obviously
this Monday, make a call. Let's go.
Exactly. What happens is that you can certainly leave. You can call our office at 314-863-0008. Leave a message. We're happy to get back to you on Monday on that. You can also, if you want, go to our website, jblfinancial.com, hit the Contact Us section and request a coaching session. And guess what? Aaron will get back to you real quick if you have a question there.
That's right.
Otherwise,
Lightning speed.
Exactly. She doesn't like to let those emails or texts go any longer than 24 hours. And certainly what will happen then is our assistant, Kelly, our office manager, who does all of our appointment arranging, will arrange a convenient day and time for you. She'll send you out a list of documents that we'll want to view during our meeting together. We'll ask you to bring those with you. And it'll be fun, and it's free at our offices and all of that. And again, you can do it one of two ways. Call us, 314-863-0008. Send us an email, Aaron at jblfinancial.com. Or if you prefer, just go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Hit the Contact Us section and give us your information. We'll be happy to contact you on Monday.
And we have another one that just came in. You're going to love this one. What is your game plan for retirement, Jeff?
Well, you folks are actually viewing it right now.
Viewing it now.
That's right. You're watching it in action right now. I don't actually plan to full-time retire from my current occupation unless, of course, my office gets taken over or I lose my room, as it would be, before I get back. What I've done is actually I've reduced my time in the office on a daily basis at this point, and transitioning with Aaron and Rob. And the best part is that they want to keep me around, so I'm going to be here as long as they'll permit me to do that.
You're not going anywhere.
Well, thank you.
We were actually down in the basement of the office, and Rob and I noticed how nice that carpet is, so we might set you up down there.
It really is.
It's plush.
And with that, maybe we should
well, that's, hold on for a minute. Hold on.
Let's go. Release the Kraken.
Hold on, Chucky. So you're taking my room. I never gave away your room when you were young. I wouldn't let your sister move into your room. I can't believe you're taking my room.
That's actually not even close to true, because that's exactly what happened. But twice. But we won't. Actually, 3 times. But we won't revisit that, as it is water under the bridge. But
just like you took my chair in the radio station, right? You made me move to the kids' table. Nice.
Just like it. No, see, you're getting the wrong impression here. I was downstairs in the basement doing some research for a client. I was looking through our old files, and I just happened to notice how, most people, especially in our house, everybody went to wood floors, so you don't really get to experience carpet very often. But the basement carpet down there, it's like that if you walk around on it without shoes on, you could lay on it. It's nice and thick and plush, so I was thinking that you might like it. That's all.
Well,
I wasn't down there surveying the land for your office or anything.
Well, honey, I only have one word for you.
No.
No, I was going to say enjoy.
Oh my gosh! All right,
having way too much fun here in the office.
Okay, you know what? I think it's time.
When the cat's away, the mice will play. That's all I can say.
I think it's time for the first break of our first hour.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
This weekend, St. Louis. It's the only boat show in St. Louis this year. The St. Charles Boat Show. Thursday, February 29th through Sunday, March 3rd. With recreational boats, boating accessories, and big winter savings on all brands of new 2024 personal watercraft, Tritoons, runabouts, high-performance boats, luxury yachts, and more. Register for a free $1,000 gas giveaway at the show. The Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealer St. Charles Boat Show. February 29th through March 3rd.
Are you living with joint pain? Living with chronic or severe hip or knee pain should not mean giving up the things you love. Pain from arthritis and joint degeneration can be constant or come and go. It's common for patients to try medication and other conservative treatments to treat their knee or hip pain. If you haven't experienced adequate relief with those treatment options, you may be a candidate for a Mako Smart Robotics partial or total knee or hip replacement, which may provide you with relief from your joint pain. Signature Orthopedics Dr. Christopher Palmer specializes in robotic hip and knee replacements using a minimally invasive technology to provide patients with relief from arthritis and joint pain. Less invasive means less painful and faster recovery times. Learn more at drpalmerortho.com. You don't have to live with joint pain. Go to drpalmerortho.com to learn more and schedule your appointment and get back to the things you love.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Mariah, third generation at Newsteaders Fine Jewelry. Buying an engagement ring can be intimidating. At Newsteaders, we ensure complete understanding of your purchase. We offer a choice in both lab and mine-grown diamonds and are able to work with any budget. Let our family help educate you on your choice at Big Ben and Doherty Ferry or at wowdiamonds.com.
It's time to thaw out, but be sure to keep those freezers stocked this spring with Dogtown Pizza. Josh here, and whether it's the first nice day of the year or another freak snowstorm, always keep a couple of Dogtown pizzas on hand in case of a hunger emergency. And with 11 flavors, you can have a different pizza every time the temperature changes. So take a tip and save a trip by stocking up on Dogtown pizzas this spring.
Join your St. Louis Symphony Orchestra for Romeo and Juliet, a concert full of sound and music. Music director Stefan Denev and the Big Muddy Dance Company fuse music and dance with a St. Louis premiere by American composer Adam Schoenberg. Then, Sergei Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet captures the thrills and tragedy of a star-crossed love. March 16th and 17th at Stiefel Theater. Tickets at slso.org.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Oh, welcome back to the show. It's 9:33 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. And for some of us, I'm not in the basement yet, but
the carpet's great.
Your mom really liked that, and her first comment was, "There is no way you're retiring." She said, forget about more husband, same money, or less money. She said, no way. So, sorry, the big boss has spoken.
So what you're saying is even if we pay you the same, you're not willing to work less?
No, it means I'm going to hide out in my office and I have to barricade myself in. I'm going to do it.
Barricade yourself out so we can't move you.
It seems serene down there, though. I mean, like
serene.
You'd get a lot of work done. You would have, the complete quiet, and you'd just be alone with your thoughts and whatever you're focused on. So, I mean,
there's a kitchen down there,
right? I mean, you got your own bathroom. Like, go.
You mean like you guys don't ignore me already? What's the point?
Oh,
okay.
You gotta be kidding me. That was a dig. Oh.
Well,
right.
Well, honey, I might be willing to do that because, we've had a discussion about the next generation and about converting one of the offices into a nursery. So that would be nice.
One after the other. That was like a right and a left.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it.
Come on now.
Well, and I promised that I would give you at least 60 days. It's been more than that since your nuptials. So, from my dad perspective, it's called quit practicing. Okay, I want to hear.
You already got in trouble for inappropriate language on the radio last week. Let's not veer into inappropriate topics.
Quit practicing is not inappropriate. Thank you.
Oh, and just at that, we have another text question on deck. Thanks for saving us.
Thank you,
Team Jeffers. Speak up here.
Good morning. Can you have a Roth IRA at two different companies as long as they don't exceed the annual limit? I have $12,000 left. I have $12,000 with my current Roth for 2023. If I open a new one with a different company and fund it for 2023, does my 5-year clock start in 2023?
Okay, so you can have multiple Roth accounts. You can have them with multiple companies, but your maximum contributions can only be the maximum contribution for each year. If these are individual IRAs, so they are not Roth IRAs, what is the 2024 IRA contribution limit again?
$7,000.
So $7,000 for 2024. So and if you're over 50, you can contribute $8,000 total. If you wanted to split that up, you can, but you can't exceed the limit. For the previous year Roth contribution, I believe it was $6,500.
2023 was $6,500. 2024 went up $500 to $7,000.
But the catch-up hasn't changed, so that's always $1,000. So if you didn't make your 2023 contribution, you can contribute $7,500. You can do it all into one Roth. You can split it in two if you'd like. You can't exceed the $7,500 for 23, nor this $8,000 for 24 if you're over the age of 50.
The only thing I would add here is I would question our texter, unless either your existing Roth or the new Roth has some type of a proprietary asset which can't be held by that new Roth or the old Roth. Why have two? You're looking at two custodial fees. That's at least $30 each, $35 each. Why have the additional administrative expense, and why have extra paperwork? Save some trees. If you're liking what you're seeing in the new Roth better than the old Roth, open up that new Roth and then transfer the money in. But again, I think your core question here was the 5-year period only applies to the first Roth IRA that's opened. All other future contributions, assets transferred into it, will satisfy that 5-year rule.
Also, if you transfer the original Roth in full to a new Roth, you can still use the original contribution date. Just because you've moved custodians does not mean that you have to start the clock over again. So if you created that Roth, let's say in 2022, but now the new Roth has better options, or you just want to consolidate, your original clock started in 2022.
Very good question. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Perky KTRS text line.
And it is percolating this morning, and we have another. That's a good word.
That is, pat on the back.
Percolating.
Don't break your
That's
arm.
what you could do when you're in the basement. You get to think.
Percolate.
You can play Sudoku and come up with fancy words.
You even have the Bowflex down there, Dad.
It is a total gym. Thank you very much.
I also have my my putting green that you guys bought for me.
No, the staff got that for you. It wasn't even me.
Solo flex.
It's a total gym.
It's a total gym.
I have the total gym, but not Christy Brinkley, so it's all good.
And our next texter writes, are my beneficiaries of my trust required to take the same percentage amount of my RMD withdrawals? If so, what happens at year 10? They inherit your RMD schedule, and at year 10, they have to have totally drained the account.
So, right. So the way to think about this is your required minimum distribution percentage is the floor of what they can take over each year for 10 years.
They inherit. Look at it. The RMD schedule is they're inheriting that as well.
Right. But they have no ceiling as to how much they can take each year. So if they wanted to drain it all in the first year, they could. Or if they wanted to spread that out over 10 years, they could vary the amounts they take over the 10-year period with at least your percentage as the minimum, and at the 10th year, the entire account has to be liquidated.
And there's some, I would call them reverse engineer options, like we could turn up your contributions at work while you suck down those contributions to kind of offset it, because you can't import those RMD withdrawals into your retirement account, but there are some creative ways to getting to the same place, even though they don't allow you to do it.
That's right. And so really to put some meat on those bones, which is if you have a taxable event, we're going to look for places where we can have a taxable deduction for you. So, for example, if you are still working and able to make retirement plan contributions, IRA contributions, we'll say take those distributions, which are taxable to you, increase your contributions to the places that are going to give you deductions. And although we might not be able to we're not directly, like you said, importing the IRA into your employer-based plan or mom's IRA into your IRA. We are doing it in a reverse engineering, so to speak.
Basically using the RMDs as your income, while your actual income is going into your retirement. It's just a little bit of a creative strategy if one was open to it.
And we might not be able to cover over the full taxable amount for you, but we certainly should be able to help reduce the tax liability that you'll have, and really be able to maintain the size of your estate, because that's what the goal is when you are receiving funds. You want to be able to keep as much of that as possible, not pass it on in federal and state taxes.
Yeah, all I would add is, we're working with these situations all the time, and I think timing is an extremely important component to this. Let's use an example to add on to what Aaron and Rob were discussing. Let's say that somebody was 62 years old when they received a inherited IRA from mom or dad. They've got 5 years until their normal retirement Social Security age, and let's just assume for fun that what they were going to do is they had made a decision based on a coaching session we had with them that they wanted to work for at least 5 years. Well, what we might want to do is use this reverse engineering concept, pulling out as much as we can to maximize their retirement plan contributions during the first 5 years. And then when they retire, we then can make the other distributions later when they'll be in a lower income tax bracket. Again, the IRS doesn't really care how you take it, but we know, as Aaron, again, has said very well, is that the floor is what mom or dad was taking at the time that they passed away. So that's your floor. The ceiling is as much as you want, because guess what? Uncle Sam doesn't care. They want their tax money, and they're going to get it.
Right.
Figuring out a tax-efficient cash flow way to do that is fun. It's an algebra problem.
It is. And our next texter writes, I'm 67. If I open a Roth, is there a waiting period?
Yes. There is always a waiting period with a Roth if you open it after 59 and a half or before. There are two requirements that you have to meet in order for the growth inside of your Roth to be tax-free when you make distributions. You need to be over the age of 59 and a half, and the Roth has to have been in existence for 5 years. If, in our texter's case, you're over 59 and a half, so there's no 10% penalty if you were to make withdrawals. However, if you open the Roth and you see gain, you're going to pay taxes on the gains that you have inside of the Roth if you make any distributions within the 5-year period. Your initial investment is not, your initial contribution is not taxed, but you are not going to reap the benefits of having the fully tax deferred and then tax-free distribution if you don't wait 5 years.
Exactamundo.
And with that, I think we've beaten the text line into compliance for the moment.
So I think it looks like time is flying. We're already ready for our second break of hour number 1.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
Martin Kilcoyne for AAA Home Services, a proud sponsor of Mizzou Hoops. For 54 years now, AAA Home Services has been a leader in selling and servicing American Standard heating and air conditioning. Right now is the best time to buy a new system. Take advantage of the best rebates and offers of 2024. Also experts in plumbing, appliance repair, and electrical needs. 636-397-3200 for the best incentives on American Standard. Open 6 days a week, online at AAASTL.com. Call AAA. We're on our way. Let's go, Tigers.
Diana from Newstetter's Fine Jewelers here to remind you, we don't just offer the best pieces, we offer one of the last hand engravers in our country. My father can create timeless, personal, and unforgettable pieces. Come by our showroom at the corner of Big Ben and Doherty Ferry or learn more online at wowdiamonds.com.
Welcome, everybody. I want to tell you about an exciting product that we have at Mobility City, which we have never really talked about before in any of our previous commercials. And it's something called Stilts, S-T-I-L-T-Z. Stilts, residential elevator that gets you from one floor to another, can go one floor or two floors. It is light, it is airy, it is clear, it is an unbelievable product and something that everybody should consider when they're thinking about mobility issues. Yes, you can move, yes, you can put an addition on your house, but why would you move if you didn't have to when you can get a residential elevator? Residential elevator Stilts is something that you should consider if you want to age in place, want to stay in your community, and want to have a great experience that will allow you to continue to enjoy your life for many, many years to come. If you're interested, contact us at Mobility City, 833-MOB-CITY, 833-MOB-CITY, or mobilitycity.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Lang. Join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 on the Big 550 for Animal Talk, where I talk about everything regarding dogs, cats, and other domestic animals. Topics include nutrition, training, medical checkups, special guests show up now and then, and of course, I'll answer your questions. So join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 for Animal Talk on the Big 550 KTRS, the Animal Talk of St. Louis.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Oh, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. We're in our last segment of hour number 1. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And we've got text, but first we have a phone call. Brian, you have a question on Social Security. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. What is your question?
Question is, 62 in 7 months, my wife's getting ready to file for her Social Security. How much can she earn working, collecting Social Security?
She can earn $22,320. No, I'm sorry, $22,320 for 2024. They'll take back $1 for every 2 over that amount.
Over that, they take back $1 for every 2.
Correct.
Okay.
And that actually goes until the year that she turns her normal retirement age, which is 67, and I believe that amount goes up, right, Rob?
It does. The year she turns normal retirement age, she can earn $59,520, and anything over that, they only take $1 back for every 3. After that, you can earn as much as you want.
Very good. Thank you so much for your call. We do appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Brian.
welcome. And our next texter writes, hey, I recently started a new job, and in that job, I signed up for a Roth account, and I noticed when selecting my choices for investment, there was a column that said expense ratio. Can you explain that to me? And at the same time, does that apply during the initial investment or at a later date?
So an expense ratio is the administrative management and advertising expenses of the fund company's fund that you've selected. They're usually called 12B1 fees. These are the internal charges that the fund you've selected is allowed to charge as they've disclosed them to you. It does not happen on the initial investment. This usually happens on an annual basis. It's debited from your returns, so generally you do not even see the 12B1 fee coming from your account. This is unlike if you purchase shares like A shares where they have an upfront load where you are paying to purchase the shares, and if you put $100 in, only $95 is actually invested. This works slightly differently in that as you are making contributions to your retirement plan, 100% of those contributions are going in. The expense ratio is debited from the returns or from the losses as well.
And I would just say that one of the advantages of investing through your 401k plan, as compared to, in many cases, working with a broker outside as compared to an investment advisor, you're going to be purchasing institutional shares classes, which means that they're the lowest possible share classes that you can have expenses in. So good thing to do, and it's always a good reason to compare those expenses, compare peer performance when it comes to choosing those, and that's something that you're not alone, my friend.
Absolutely.
And the phones are relatively quiet, and so is the text line.
Well, Dad, did you want to get into what we wanted to chat about this morning?
Yes, I did. I had an interesting phone call from one of our clients. His name's Jim, and he's talking about the possibility of selling his home in St. Louis and moving permanently to the lake, which is something we've heard in the past. He's 60 years old, and he doesn't plan to retire soon. He's also an independent contractor, which makes the situation, I think, a little more interesting. But what I wanted to do was take a couple of minutes and talk about some of the facts. His current home is valued at about $300,000, and he has no outstanding mortgage or home equity balance. He estimates that the cost of his new home will be about $450,000. So he's about $150,000 short. He's really not interested in a mortgage at this point, so we know that after looking at his financial situation, he has sufficient after-tax assets to cover the $150,000 shortage through cash that he has at this point, as well as mutual funds in a non-retirement account. As I said, he is an independent contractor, and what he does is he moves around. He works for about 4 different hotel chains. And he does have an opportunity and currently has work at the lake that's pending for 5 weeks. He has retained a realtor to assist him in finding a place, and they've been letting him stay in a condo that they own when he's visited the lake recently to look at properties.
Wait, so he moves around a lot, but I guess he just likes the lake?
Yes, and what's curious is that he actually hasn't been down there for some time. So as you can imagine, the situation sounds kind of easy. Hey, sell your house and move down to the lake, and either we pay, you don't have a mortgage or we have a small mortgage, whatever it might be. We determine, do we sell funds or not? What's the tax base, etc. But there were several questions that we as advisors should ask him, and we did, right?
We certainly did, and the first one being, when was the last time you were at the lake, and how much time did you spend there?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's real important here because his answer is that he hadn't been there for about 5 years. But each time that he had gone down there, he really was there for, maybe 3, 4, 5 days a week. In other words, he's a tourist. He really doesn't understand what's really going on at the lake. And, the next question was that, Aaron, I thought this was a great question that you asked him.
Is the lake really the place you want to spend your winters at now and in the future?
Big deal. If you're in a situation where you have mobility with your job, which means that you really get to choose the times that you want to work and the place you want to work. Do you really want to be at the lake during the winter? And I would just tell you that from our working with our clients, they love the lake during the summer. They love it in the spring. They love it in the fall. They hate it in the winter. I mean, it's just not the place that they really want to be.
And then the final question that we asked was, is your current home a good possible rental property? So could we create an additional cash flow stream for you? And it would be almost pure cash flow because you've already paid off the expense of the mortgage. So you do have the property taxes, insurance to carry. However, that could always be built into the monthly cost of the rent.
Right, and the other side to that is that not only from an income flow point of view, but from a capital point of view. If you're going to if you decided that you wanted to retain this property as a rental, is it one so that you could maybe do a home equity line or do a second mortgage, use that capital then as a down payment on your home, on your new home, and really leverage that property to get the maximum tax deduction in terms of interest and business expenses, as well as an income flow to help support this new property or any small mortgage that you might have.
And I thought holding on to the property, at least in the short term, could pay a dividend in the sense that if he got down there and maybe if he got out a little bit too far in front of his skis, he knows he can come back to, he doesn't have to, well, now I have to start the process of, buying another house again because I could just move back into my old one.
So, what's curious here is that we know that he has about 5 weeks of work. We also know that he really has been a tourist at the lake as compared to really living there and being there and experiencing whether it's the lake or any other location you're at. Maybe it makes sense for him to consider doing what I like to call, and again, I haven't coined this phrase, but a workplace staycation. Go down there, check it out, figure things out in terms of where is maybe a more optimal place if you're going to think about moving forward to purchase a property. Where are how close do you need to be to social activities that are there? How close do you need to be at least also promoting your business if you're going to continue to work and be there? And what was so fun is that after this very short conversation that we have with him, and again, this was maybe a 10 to 15 minute conversation, I could see the lights go on for him, as it's done for many clients in similar situations. So
I think really what the bottom line of this conversation is if we think about this over all of our clients, where we have clients that have family that have moved other places. They've moved to St. Louis to work and maybe they want to go back to where their family is, or, they have kids that have moved around after college or found careers in other states, and our clients would like to be closer to them. Everyone has always believed that renting is throwing money away, that you need to buy a house, that you have to build equity in it, and that any other option doesn't make financial sense. But the truth is that your home is generally going to be the most valuable asset that you own. So jumping into the fire just to avoid paying rent may cost you more money in the long run, because we could find that Jim doesn't love the lake, or that one of our other clients doesn't love the location of their children's house. They want to live on the other side of town. So having the opportunity to experience the place that you're going for, it doesn't have to be multiple years. It could be even 6 months to just 1 year to determine where's the best spot for you. And also with the real estate market the way that it is now, oh my gosh, it's almost impossible to find anything to buy. And then when you do, you're ended up in some kind of bidding war or a situation where you're waiving inspections, not worried about what the cost might be down the road. You have the opportunity to, we don't have to run 60 miles an hour simply to get to where you want to go. We can always take it a little bit slower, and that may make more not only financial sense, but it could be a lot easier for you in the long run. Buying and selling homes usually is not the smoothest process for everyone.
Yeah, and definitely going down there to figure out whether it's a good fit, on a little bit longer time frame than 5 weeks. Like you said, it could pay dividends. Like, hey, I thought I really liked it, but on further review, maybe it's just a place I'd like to come intermittently. I don't want to be down here in a full-time capacity.
Exactly.
So experience living before committing to buy. I think that was really the mainstay thing that we really wanted to consider here. And what's fun is that we love answering these questions. Being a part of our client's life is really where it's all at. Being invited on that journey, which is just a lot of fun. So if you're having fun with us this morning, we hope you're going to continue, because we've got hour number 2 of Straight Talk Retirement to come to answer your questions, as well as your text at 314-931-5877 or from the KTRS text line 84126. Do us a favor. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement for hour number 2. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. We're going to start off this hour, as we usually do, with our smart choices about your healthcare segment. And naturally, we will want to get your texts as well as your phone calls at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
That's right. We've got a few great texts on deck, but we're going to pick them up after our Medicare segment, so keep them coming. And if you have any Medicare questions, don't hesitate.
Because you care, we talk Medicare.
Well, then let's talk about Joan.
Joanne is 65 years old, and she has chosen to stay on her employer's coverage plan until she fully retires. She has a family plan through her employer, paying about $500 per month for her and her husband. Her husband, Tim, is only 63. He is not Medicare eligible. Joanne asked if she should enroll in Medicare and what it would cover if she did. Well, Medicare Part A, think of it as where your body is at. You're at the hospital, hospice, skilled nursing.
So A, at where you are.
I think that's a very
like
cute.
One?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Very nice cheat sheet. Part A has no cost as long as you're qualified for Medicare. Medicare Part B is everything else but prescriptions. So visits to the doctor, your lab work, x-ray, preventative care, surgeries, procedures, durable medical equipment. Part B covers the surgery for your hip replacement and the screws they use during the procedure. Medicare Part B base premium is $174.70.
So here's a few things that you want to keep in mind as to why this isn't a great idea to enroll in Medicare if you already have qualified coverage through your employer. I know many of you, maybe the vast majority of you, have heard from your friends and family that you absolutely have to enroll in Medicare when you turn 65 or you're going to get a penalty. That's not necessarily the case. Just like in Joanne's case, that it will not be the case. So, for example, number one, Joanne's primary coverage will still be her employer's coverage. What this means is that any claims that she has during the year is first going to go to her employer's plan. They're going to pay their percentage based on the plan that she has. They're going to pay her their portion, and then the claim is going to pass to Medicare. If Joanne's coverage has already paid for at least 80% of the actuarial value of the claim, which Medicare gets to determine when they review the claim, Medicare's not going to pay anything. This isn't like it used to be 25 years ago when husband and wife could cover one another on each other's employer's plan. You'd be cross-covered, and you might end up with very little to no bills ever because first your employer's plan would cover, then your spouse's plan would come in and pick something up, and you'd be left with very little. Medicare has a limitation as to how much it's willing to cover. So if the primary coverage already takes care of the bill, Medicare is just going to pass it back to you and say, looks like you owe something here. So you're going to be paying for coverage because Medicare Part B has a premium that you are not going to really be utilizing. Now, Medicare Part A doesn't have a premium, but there's another reason why you might not want to enroll in Medicare Part A, especially in Joanne's case.
If you had access to a health savings account through her current plan, she's no longer going to be able to contribute to it. That means she's going to lose the opportunity to build up her tax-free health insurance dollars.
That's right. So unfortunately, Medicare is not considered a high deductible savings plan, which means that you are not eligible to couple that with a health savings account any longer. So if Joanne happened to have a health savings account through work and she enrolls in just Medicare Part A because there's no premium associated with it, so it's free, what's the harm? She's actually taken herself out of the ability to make contributions on her behalf to that health savings account. And again, most likely she's not going to get much benefit out of that Part A, even if she was admitted to the hospital or needed skilled nursing or hospice or physical therapy, anything like that. So the great news is that Medicare offers a variety of enrollment periods for individuals. You do not have to utilize the first enrollment period available to you, which is called your initial election period. This is that 7-month window that surrounds the month that you turn 65. Since Joanne has coverage that is considered as good or better than Medicare's, she can bypass this election period without penalty or without any issue.
If she didn't have that employer coverage, then she would be in line for that penalty. But being that she has qualified coverage through her employer, we don't have to worry about that at all.
The only time the penalty comes into play is if you don't have qualified coverage and you don't enroll in a timely fashion. If her plan is to wait until Tim turns 65 before she retires, because Tim's only 63 right now, you mentioned, Joanne will be eligible for a special election period. This is for individuals who have qualifying events to gain access to Medicare. So in Joanne's case, it would be the loss of employer coverage.
So as soon as she loses that qualified care through health care through her employer, she's into that special election period.
That's exactly right. And if you can think there's anything cool about Medicare, this is the cool thing about it, which is Medicare allows for what's called voluntary disenrollment, which means if Joanne decides she doesn't like her employer plan anymore, that $500 a month premium goes to $2,000 a month, she can say, no, thank you, I'm going to enroll in Medicare now. She can leave at any point during the year after she's turned 65, and she will be eligible to enroll as if she were 65 years old.
And there are some other qualifying events. If she were to move out of the service area, obviously she'd be getting another election period.
Absolutely. Also, loss of coverage could mean while you're already on Medicare even. So you can have qualifying events, not just joining Medicare, but when you're already on Medicare. Let's say that...
so you had an Advantage plan and you're here in St. Louis and you move to Oregon. You're getting a new election period.
That's right, as if you had never chosen before. So you can choose between a supplement and a Medicare Advantage plan at that point to wherever you move. If your plan leaves you, so if...
That's great.
I love when I catch you off guard like that. If Aetna says they're no longer going to offer coverage in Missouri or in your zip code, you have a new election period because you've lost coverage. You have a special election to make a new choice. So there is flexibility within Medicare. Let's choose the enrollment period that matches your needs. Don't just enroll because you have the opportunity to do so.
I think a lot of people hear penalty and right away
absolutely. Alarm bells are going off.
Exactly. The little hairs on the back of the neck start standing up, and certainly no one wants to get caught without a chair when music stops, certainly when there are penalties involved.
And I really kind of wanted to wrap this up with talking about how to enroll in Medicare. And the reason for that is Joanne and Tim are not uncommon in that spouses are different ages. They have different employers. They're enrolling in health plans at different times. That could be inclusive of Medicare because they're retiring at different times. So Joanne and Jim's enrollment process to Medicare are going to be slightly different, but that's what we're here for. So, Rob, why don't you tell us how Joanne is going to enroll in Medicare?
Well, first she's going to log into SSA.gov.
That's the Social Security Administration's website. Now, you don't have to elect Social Security to elect Medicare, but you do have to go through the Social Security website to elect Medicare.
So once she logs into SSA.gov, she's going to apply for her Medicare Part A benefit.
You have to do this first.
Then she's going to fill out the Medicare Part B application and request her employer sign Request for Employment Information Form. This will tell Medicare that Joanne had qualified coverage because she was working past 65. So, again, that penalty won't be won't be enforced.
That's exactly right. So, Joanne's first going to apply for Medicare Part A online. Then she's going to take a paper application, which is literally 1 page for Medicare Part B and 1 page for the request for employment information. Send that into Social Security as well. They're going to match it up to her Medicare Part A application and then say, all right, Joanne, you've got an election period into Medicare that begins the day after your coverage ends. You can also specify on the application itself the date you'd like your coverage to begin. As long as you turn it in the month before you'd like your coverage to start, they'll be able to get that election period for you as long as everything else is in good order.
Now, our husband, Tim, he has it relatively easy. He can log into SSA.gov and apply for A and B at the same time. No additional paperwork is required.
That's right. And I will just say one more thing about Joanne, which is that if you... What?
No.
If you...
Go back to Joanne for
Let's go one more second back to Joanne. If you exceed your initial election period and you stay on employer coverage or you stay on your spouse's coverage past 65 years old, most likely you're going to get a letter in the mail from your Medicare Advantage plan or your supplemental company that you have a penalty assessed against you because you need to prove that you had coverage.
And that's just like a normal, that's almost automated, right away is going out.
And the reason for that is Medicare does not keep on file every single health insurance plan that's available for you through employers in this country. So what they want to do is say, okay, well, send us a copy of the card or write down your ID number from the plan that you had so we can ensure that you had qualified coverage during this time period so you don't have a penalty assessed against you.
So if you were in that situation and you did get one of those letters...
You can call us or you just whip out your old card, fill it out, send it back in.
There was recently a situation where I think we encountered something like that with a family member. They got that letter and panicked a little bit.
It was terrifying.
It can be because, you think you've done everything right. And now they're telling you that, no, actually you didn't. And, but wait, that's not the end-all, be-all.
But luckily you have the hotline
yes,
to us.
And I was going to say that as my daughter and son-in-law were basically saying, my wife resembled that remark. And what was curious is that, our current health plan happens to be with United Healthcare. My wife did go to United Healthcare for a supplement as well, which you would think, hey, they would talk to it. They should be able to talk to themselves internally, but the answer is no.
That's not how it works.
Really simply, after I talked your mom off the ceiling, I filled out the form myself, mailed it in, and guess what? Within 3 or 4 days, boom.
It's all good.
It was all taken care of. It's all good, and she isn't sending me to the basement either. So it's good. Yet. To my platinum doghouse, yes.
All right. So, and the last thing that I will say is, although Joanne and Jim are using different enrollment Tim. Although Joanne and Tim were using different enrollment periods to enroll in Medicare, they both have the same opportunity to choose whatever Medicare Advantage plan or supplement that they like. They can choose the same one. They can choose different ones. There will be no medical questions, no underwriting. It will all be what's called guarantee issue, and they'll have the opportunity to do that, upon looking at their physicians and prescriptions and determining what plan's best for them, but there are no limitations, regardless of how you enroll, as long as you do so in a timely manner.
Yeah, that was great. And, it's interesting because one of the aspects I know that you didn't address in this was if for some reason Joanne decided that, I just have to go on to Medicare, we know that Tim would have COBRA rights, and he could certainly continue his plan, that plan, until his either Medicare eligibility, hopefully was within 18 months, or he'd have to go to the thing.
Well, actually, I think, Dad, that because Joanne is 65, if he leaves the plan, he will have 36 months of COBRA rights because Joanne was leaving her plan due to Medicare eligibility.
Well, thank you for that technical correction. It's very good.
A little sneak peek. Yeah.
Very good. And the other aspect to this, which, again, I like to think of this as the algebra numbers part, is that the contribution that was being made for Tim specifically, that $500 a month, was a pre-tax contribution. So it was certainly lower for her on an after-tax
and that was
basis.
for both of them together. So that's why I think that she had made the decision before we even chatted that she was going to stay on her employer's plan. She just wanted to know because, of course, friends and family told her that you're going to have a penalty. Should I enroll in Medicare? What am I missing out on? And the truth is, for most people, not only are you not missing, the only thing you'll be missing out on is the $174 a month that you're paying. So you don't want to do that.
That was a good segment.
Thanks. And we've got a really excellent text question on deck. This came in before the break, so I was able to procure a little bit more information, so I think we can have a little bit longer of a conversation about this one.
And our texter writes, I'm 52 with $560,000 in my 401k. Right now, $1,100 a month goes into the account. There is a Roth option available within the company retirement plan. Does it make sense to start putting my monthly contributions into the Roth option going forward? I'd like to be done working at 60. My salary is $75,000 plus commission, which usually works out between $95,000 and $100,000.
That's right. So during the break, I asked, what is your income? Because I think that's an important component in making the decision as to, are you going to make traditional 401k contributions, which are tax deductible to you, versus are you going to make Roth 401k contributions, which are not tax deductible, but eventually, as long as you meet those two qualifications, Roth's been in existence for 5 years and you're over 59 and a half, you've actually created some tax-free distributions for yourself. So if we assume our texter is, should we assume he's single or married?
Let's go with single.
All right. So we have a bachelor. He's earning about $100,000 a year. We know he's putting away about $13,000 a year pre-tax. So that means his tax bracket should be he should be in the 22% tax bracket. So in my opinion, I would continue to take the deductions, because if you are going to switch part or all of that $1,100 a month to after-tax contributions, you're going to be taxed on it before the money goes in, or you're going to be taxed on it at the end of the year, have to pay income tax on that. Whereas your pre-tax contributions are actually reducing your tax liability. My suggestion might be, if you have the ability to potentially contribute a little bit more, say $100 more a month, $200 more a month over the next 8 years, because your plan is to try to retire at 60 years old, maybe your additional contributions go to the Roth account. So if you have a particularly good commission year, or you get a raise of your base salary, maybe you take that raise component and say, I'm going to put that into the Roth, versus continuing to pay that, 22% on your contributions.
With his catch-up provisions and the limits to the 401k, I believe he can defer $30,500 going forward in 2024.
Right, so he
have
more space.
Yeah, you have a lot of leeway there if you can afford to do it, to sock away more money on a tax-deferred basis and lower your taxable income in the current year.
Right, because it's generally our opinion that you are going to be in the highest tax bracket that you will ever be in while you are working. So if we take advantage of the tax breaks while you're working, when you have to pay taxes on the other side, you're going to be in a significantly lower tax bracket, because we know not all of your income is taxed the same. Distributions from retirement plans, if they're pre-tax accounts, so traditional IRAs that came from what we would call a traditional 401k, those are 100% taxable. But your Social Security benefit is not fully taxable to you. No longer are they even charging you Social Security state taxes on your Social Security benefits, which means you've even reduced that tax liability. So we know that taking the deductions on the front end when you're in the highest tax bracket and then paying taxes in a lower tax bracket can be just as effective as having to not pay taxes. Because it never works out that way. You're always going to pay taxes at some point.
Taxman always gets paid, unfortunately.
That's how it works.
Right. The only thing I would add here is that because of the recent changes, if our texter is able to increase their contributions, and they're actually in a situation where they're making catch-up contributions, those will be directed into the Roth. So you'll have a way to get money into the Roth
without having to make the contribution necessarily.
Exactly, but the notion that you will pay higher taxes in retirement than you do during your working years is rubbish.
Rubbish.
Another great word this morning.
That is a good word, and it's also fully compliant with the rules of broadcasting.
And we certainly want to stay within those guardrails.
Yes, we do.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at, as an example, with this particular texter, he had about, I believe, around 600,000 of retirement
560.
assets.
You're right.
Okay, so let's just round it up to 600. I'm sure by the time he goes to retire, if we're making a prudent withdrawal rate of 4%, that's about 24,000. His Social Security benefits most likely will be in the 3,000 per month area. So that's about $5,200 a month of taxable income. He's going to be in an effective tax rate, based on today's tax law, of about 11%. That's half of the taxes that he's paying while he's working today. So always take the tax deductions, the current ones that you have available today, instead of buying into whatever bogus stuff you hear on the radio that it's going to be. I mean, a lot of people do that. It's going to be higher later, or
well, it will be higher later. It'll also be lower later.
I mean, pulling money from a tax-free account isn't a bad idea. But as we've said in the past, we find that most of our clients use their Roth IRAs really for capital consumption events, the big purchases that they don't have cash flow available to them, like a car, like a renovation at home, a kitchen, a bathroom, etc. A big trip that's more than or greater than what they're normally taking today. They want to access more capital. Well, guess what? A Roth can be a great source of that, source for that capital, as compared to making large distributions, which are taxable from traditional IRA accounts.
And just to make one more comment before we head into our first break of the hour, a lot of clients are, with an election year coming up, concerned that we may see the sunsetting of the Trump tax cuts. And I've had several conversations with people, just like, let's reflect back upon the Trump tax cuts themselves. Most people didn't see much benefit from them. There were so many offsets, especially that doubling of the standard deduction where individuals were no longer able to itemize, really created a situation where we weren't seeing a ton of tax savings. If the Trump tax cuts were to sunset, so we were to revert back to essentially, I guess, the Bush tax cuts, which is what they could you stop rocking the boat there, Dad?
Sorry, babe.
God, you're making me feel old with the Bush tax cuts. Like, wow.
Well, that's what the Obama administration just extended the Bush tax cuts. You're only going to see a change. It's like about 2% across all of the brackets, and maybe instead of a widening and narrowing of what those brackets are. But you'll also get back all the deductions we lost. So I think it should probably net out to not much difference, meaning you want to take advantage of the situation that you're in now versus hoping or waiting for a new situation to arise. So I think we've got another
really good.
We have a whole segment planned around this last text that we received, but we got to take our first break of this hour.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement and your questions and phone calls after these messages.
Hey, what's that? It's my new Yeti cocktail shaker. It matches my ice bucket and my drinkware.
Ooh, Yeti makes the coolest stuff.
Yeah, they do. And I got it all at Schnarr's.
Frank Blair from Schnarr's Hardware here. Are you looking to give a gift that your loved one can use year-round? Then give the gift of the best gear with Yeti products found at Schnarr's Hardware. We have a wide selection of hard and soft coolers, insulated drinkware, waterproof and everyday bags, other outdoor gear, and accessories. Every Yeti performs when it matters most, whether it be commuting, hiking, boating, hunting, camping, or just getting together with friends in the backyard. Find the right Yeti for you at Schnarr's. For hours, locations, or to shop online, go to schnarrs.com. Because gifting is easy when you start at Schnarr's.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. Thank you all this morning, because we haven't had to discuss really a single thing of what's on our mind, because we've got...
It's always better to discuss what's on our listeners' minds.
And you've got a lot of things on your mind this morning. The last question was excellent. Where should I put my retirement plan savings? Should I make contributions to pre-taxes or to after-tax accounts? The next question is on the other side of that. It's essentially a pension or a lump sum question.
Absolutely. And our texter writes, what are the determining factors in deciding on a lump sum payout or a monthly benefit from a pension? I'm being offered a $130,000 buyout opposed to an $1,100 a month pension. I'm 62 and I'd like to retire in 3 years. I'm in good health, but afraid that if something were to happen to me, that my wife would lose the monthly check.
This is a great question, and I think that there are three primary considerations that you'll want to make in determining if you take the lump sum amount or if you decide to take the monthly pension. And our texter has really hit on one of them, which is, do you need the $1,100 a month in order to make your financial plan work? Or do you need less than that? You know, once your Social Security benefit kicks in, once your wife's Social Security benefit kicks in, how much of a deficit do you have in meeting your monthly income goal? Is it less than $1,100 a month? If it is, maybe we consider not taking that $1,100 a month, and we can customize an amount for you that meets that deficit of your income goal.
The second question that I would immediately go to is, do you want the opportunity to be able to pass any of that lump sum on to beneficiaries?
Right. So, for example, the first thing would be, will your wife be able to sustain her lifestyle on the $130,000 less what you've taken out and what it's potentially grown to over time, versus with your loss of Social Security, does that now mean that your wife absolutely needs the $1,100 a month in order to make her life work? So that's an important consideration. We have to consider, when you're both together, do you need the income? And if one of you is gone, will that surviving spouse need the income?
What does the fixed income, when all the faucets are on, what does that look like? And, do we need this extra $1,100? And the last thing we would consider is, what is the payout rate?
And in this particular example,
it's quite high.
It's a high payout rate, because we have 11. The way that you can calculate this, and again, there is no secret behind the math here. Payout rate is pretty simple. We take the monthly amount and we annualize it. So $1,100 a month in this example, over a 12-month period, that's $13,200.
Up against the divided by $130,000.
Which is your lump sum offer.
So that's 10%. That's excellent.
That's pretty good. Now, the only thing that we did not capture from our texter was the $1,100 a month, and I'm just assuming that it's joint and survivor because he mentioned his wife in the text. But did you quote us the individual life-only monthly pension option, or did you quote us the joint and survivor at 100% option, because that would have an impact on what the payout rate is?
This is the really fun stuff, when you can really, sit down with someone and just let the math be our guide.
That's right. We're not talking about what we are investing your assets in.
Does this make sense? Does my game plan work with this? Or if I take it another way and I go the fixed income route, do I need to do that as well? Like, what is the smart play here?
To quote our president that is now going to be residing in the basement. No, kidding. The science always has to come before the art, and we consider the science is, do we have enough, and where are our income sources? How do we make that work? The art is then, where do we invest the assets? What are these additional decisions that we have to make around down the line?
Our texter writes, the $1,100 was for my life only.
So so when you are doing the math on your own, sir, you're going to want to take the joint and survivor amount divided by the lump sum amount, because you want to factor in the fact that, thank you, annualized, because you want to factor in the reality that in order for your wife to receive the pension, you're going to have to take a lower pension amount in life in order to get that, which, one, will change the payout rate, but two, it's also going to change that math. Do you need the $900 a month that your new pension is, or do you need less?
And if he's going to continue to work for 3 more years, I mean, I don't know the particulars of his pension, but it's not unreasonable to assume that that might grow. That these are static numbers. These aren't static numbers. They're going to fluctuate certainly over 3 years.
Well, a few things. One, if our texter is still contributing to the pension, sometimes pensions have been frozen, so the monthly dollar amount can stay stagnant. But what we have also seen is companies have the opportunity to offer significantly less in terms of lump sum amounts because interest rates have risen. So that number does have potentially that number does have the opportunity to fluctuate. If we see over the next several years a decrease in the rate environment, we may see that those lump sums increase over time.
And, I would certainly invite our texter to give our office a call. This is what we do. We do it every day. And if you just want some peace of mind, or just want to see it all put up on the whiteboard in straightforward language that's easy to understand, come in, have a nice cup of coffee. We'll lay it all out. We'll dot every I and cross every T.
That's right. Dad, did you have anything to add to that one? That was a great text.
Really appreciate that.
All I can say is I trained you well, grasshoppers.
Oh, thanks.
Very thorough. And I would say that as a rule of thumb, at least in today's interest rate environment, if that factor that you come up with, that percentage, which is that we're taking the lump sum versus the monthly amount to, or the annualized monthly amount to, is less than 7%, it's not a good deal. If it's 7% or greater, it's a good deal.
And when you're talking about the 7%, is that when you are factoring the joint and survivor benefit, or is that a life only?
That's a joint and survivor benefit.
Okay, so you'll want to make sure that once you figure out what that joint and survivor monthly amount is, once you take the annual amount, and that's not the only factor, and I really appreciate the way that our texter asked the question, which is, what are the factors that you consider? There isn't one decision point that's going to make or break your decision. It's going to be a constellation of these things combined.
Like almost we talked about. A tiered approach.
Right. It's a checklist. What's the payout rate? Better or less than 7%? Well, if it's less than 7, that's a check in the lump sum box. If it's over 7, that's maybe a check in the monthly payout box.
Do you need the fixed income to make your life work?
Where do we check that box? And then the final one is, do you want the opportunity to pass it on? And then obviously a subset of, do you need it to make your life work? Does anyone else in your family need it to make their life work if you're not there?
So A to B, B to C, just write down the list.
And I think, again, what I would suggest to the texter and all of our listeners, who, by the way, as our clients, folks that are listening to the show today, really 100% of them are, is that, one of the things we talk about every week is that we create a reliable stream of income, one that you can count on so you can do the things you want to do during retirement. Well, we do have these options and vehicles available to us to do that. And so, as Aaron was saying, is we can, if you have an opportunity and you want the opportunity and you need the opportunity to have a more customized income flow than what's being offered by the pension, certainly that would be a significant reason to consider doing a lump sum, but it's all good.
And the only thing I would add is that, many times these pension elections are not reversible. So, coming in for a coaching session or sitting down with a professional and going through the options is certainly not going to hurt at all. In fact, you probably are going to get a great deal from it. Even if you don't choose a certain option, you'll at least understand all the different particulars around that pension election.
I think that's a very good point. There are very few decisions that you can make in retirement that are irreversible.
But this is
one of them.
Right.
I mean, even Social Security we can pay back within a year. choosing a different health insurance option. You get the opportunity every single year with Medicare to make an election. Monthly distributions, you can change that on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
How you're invested, you can make alterations to that, but this is one of those things that is irreversible. So feeling confident in your decision will make you feel confident in the outcome.
And, a lot of our listeners, they were experts in their field of work. They shouldn't be expected to be an expert in all the nuances of pension elections. That's what we're here for.
That's a great point.
Very good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And if not, I know that we've got a few matters that we want to talk about today.
We do, but we have another texter, and our texter writes, I recently inherited $450,000 of stock and mutual funds from my dad's estate.
Woohoo!
Right. Do I owe taxes?
Well, also sorry for your loss.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to. Okay. Do I owe taxes on these? No.
Well, no, only if it wasn't inside of an IRA, right?
Correct. Inheriting...
Right,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say inheriting property is never a taxable event. It's almost always what comes after.
That's a great point. So inheriting property, you get a step up in basis to the fair market value at the date of dad's passing. The stock portfolio, and sometimes this is just a nuanced thing, you could hold stocks inside of an IRA account, which means they will be taxable to you. But if they're held inside of a trust, if they're held in an individual or a joint account, if they hadn't changed that designation, if mom's already passed, you're going to get a step up in basis of the stocks to the fair market value at the date of dad's death. And to your point, what happens after? What you do with those securities, what you do with that property is going to determine if there's any taxation. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to stay in the house, I'm going to own it for a while, you get the new cost basis of the home as the date of dad's passing. And then if you sell it 20 years from now, but there's a $100,000 gain from that, well, that'll be what'll potentially be taxable to you depending upon your property situation. And then the same
thing with the mutual funds and the stocks. Your step up in basis will be to the date of the passing, and then, if you have a gain from that date on, you'll pay taxes, obviously, on that gain, or it could go the other way. You could have a loss.
That is
so it
also
could be
true.
a write-off.
Indeed.
Good question.
You know what? Because we have a few things on our mind, why don't we take our last break of the hour, and when we get back, we'll get into a coaching session we had with a professor named Terry from Belleville.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement, your questions and phone calls after these messages.
When it comes to your home, one quick way to make a really big difference is by changing your front door. Dalco Home Remodeling custom makes their doors, and they do it here in Missouri. Dalco also does windows, energy-saving vinyl replacement windows. But what I like the most about Dalco Home Remodeling is that the team is customer-focused, meaning they really care about who they're working with, and they want you to be happy when they're finished. I think it's one of the many reasons they're celebrating 50 years in business this year. But back to the doors. They can do sliding doors, front doors, French doors, you get the idea. And they can be painted or stained to match any decor. So if you're looking to make a change this year, call Dalco Home Remodeling and make an appointment, 314-298-7300. You can also check them out online at dalcohomeremodeling.com. As they've always said, if you buy somewhere else and find out how much you could have saved at Dalco, you'll blow your stack.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, it's 10:43 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're entering our last segment of this hour. And just as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. We love seeing them in coaching sessions. Easy to schedule if you want to come and visit with us. You're within 5 years of retirement or already retired. Give us a call, 314-863-0008, or if you like, go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Hit the Contact Us section. We'll be happy to contact you and to visit with us in our offices in beautiful, wild downtown Olivet, Missouri.
Indeed. We had a... Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about a great coaching session we had this week with Terry. And Terry is a retired college professor from Belleville. And Terry wanted some advice on what to do with his share of the proceeds from the sale of his mother's home after her recent passing. The sale netted him $200,000.
My goodness, we've had a lot of people that have passed away recently.
Yes. And
our condolences to all of you.
After a lengthy discussion, we determined that, number one, Terry doesn't need any portion of the money to fill his vault. He is all set in that regard, which is great.
Right, the vault, we like to call the vault your emergency fund, so that's easily accessible cash that's not subject to market risk, that is there and available to you either for monthly expenses if something happens or an emergency that comes up that you need some extra cash for.
Yeah, and when you get proceeds like this, that's usually our first move on the chessboard. Like, what does your vault look like?
Right, let's create some savings.
The second, he doesn't have any current or near-term projects that would require capital to remain for this use, which is, that's our second move. Like, okay, your vault is correct. Is there a new car? Is there a kitchen remodel?
Right.
Is there a graduation, a wedding, a vacation? Is there any other capital requirement that we need to, be on the lookout for?
Right, because we don't want to meet short-term needs with long-term risk. So we wouldn't want to invest those assets and then, a few weeks later we have to choose the right day. Is the market up enough for us to make that sale? Is it down? We want to wait. We want to make sure that we avoid taking unnecessary risk with funds that are necessary within this next 6 to 12 months, like you said.
It's always nice to know about the known knowns. If we know we have something coming up, obviously we'll game plan for that. Third one, and we've heard this so much over like the last 10 weeks, at least I feel we've heard a lot of it, is he is concerned about market volatility as we are about 8 months away from the presidential election. And that, that's not an unreasonable concern.
No, it's not. And of course, he'd like to earn a reasonable rate of interest on his money.
Wouldn't we all?
Wouldn't we all? So, we considered a two-tiered approach. Let's take advantage of the current high wave of interest rates through a high-yielding money market account. The reason that we like the high-yielding money market accounts over CDs potentially is truly liquidity is my number one thought, because I've noticed, and obviously there are a variety of options of CDs, a variety of banks that you can secure them through, durations that you can elect, but they all are hovering around 4.5%. We're also seeing the majority of money market accounts, especially those online money market accounts, that are also yielding about 4.5%. You do give up the guarantee if you don't use a CD, but in my opinion, you're exchanging the guaranteed interest rate for guaranteed liquidity, meaning it's possible that if the Fed decided to cut rates at one of the upcoming meetings, you would see that 4.5% start to decrease.
But on the flip side, if say there was a capital expenditure that came up out of nowhere, he can easily access that money.
And as long as he elects a money market account that has no limitations, no restrictions, and no requirements, which many of them do, if you do a little bit of research just to make sure you can get at your money whenever you want it, there's no minimum account value in order for you to earn your rate of interest that's been granted for the moment, then you should easily be able to access that money without any penalties. So you wouldn't have to breaking a CD.
So after consulting with Jeff and Aaron, I suggested we take $100,000 of those proceeds and purchase a 5-year fixed rate annuity. The annual crediting rate is 4.95% annually, and the interest would grow income tax deferred.
So this would translate to an after-tax rate of about 6%, which is much higher than any rate that's really being offered today.
And Terry was receptive, but he asked, I've heard these contracts can be restricted and heavily loaded with fees. Is that true? And, I explained that the selected contract period was limited to 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, he could request 100% of the contract value without penalty or fee. But during the 5-year accumulation period, he could withdraw 10% per year without any penalty at all. So he has that 10% liquidity corridor that he can use if needed. There are no front-end loads of fee, and 100% of your money is invested.
Well, right, 100% of your money is earning that guaranteed interest that's the 4.95%.
As a rule, we don't really want to take advantage of the withdrawal corridor unless we had to, but it's just nice. It's peace of mind to know that, hey, over the 5 years, I can empty out half the money of this contract if I could, penalty-free.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to do that because the whole idea is to leave it in there so it can grow and take advantage of the interest rate, but not to leave you without a chair if the music stops or an unforeseen event happens and you do need to put your hands on some of that money.
So essentially what we're doing here is attempting to meet all of Terry's goals, which is, if we take them in the reverse, he'd like to earn a reasonable rate of interest, and he's concerned about market volatility over the next several years. Over the next several months, and he doesn't necessarily have any short-term projects that are coming up. So we take a half and we say, let's make that completely liquid, but we're still earning about 4.5% depending upon what account you elect. Let's take the other half and we can use the fixed annuity in order to create a higher fixed rate of interest that's guaranteed. The other cool thing about a lot of these fixed annuities is that their interest compounds daily. So that 4.95% really works out to about 5.15% if we look at it compounding on a daily basis.
It's even working on Saturday and Sunday.
Your money's always working.
It never takes a break.
Right. But it's also important to consider that, we're considering a fixed annuity in this example. So you do want to make sure that, we have to give our disclosure about how that fixed annuities are not an investment. Basically what they are is that you are investing your money in the insurer's general account assets, not a series of investment sub-accounts. So there is a difference in the fee structure, and that is why with most fixed annuities, you do not see a fee associated with your investment, nor do you have any annualized charges there. You're simply being credited a rate of interest that has been disclosed to you for a fixed amount of time. We thought a 5-year period fit our client situation well. However, they do offer 3-year, 7-year options as well. So you do have a variety to choose from. You'll want to consult with someone to make sure that you're making the election based on your financial needs.
Yes, and again, I think that not to put aside here is that in Terry's situation, we were led to understand that he wasn't really needing the income from these from either of these investments at this point, so only half of that income currently would be taxable through the interest earned in his high-yielding money market account, while the annuity would grow income tax deferred until he decided to make withdrawals. And unlike IRAs, he could actually hold that. He could, if he wanted to, retain that asset as a annuity contract, and it would continue to grow income tax deferred until his death.
That's a great point.
Being that we were just talking about, clients that unfortunately have passed, and
we've gotten a lot of texts and questions.
I thought we might go through with the few minutes that we have with the checklist of things to do when a loved one dies.
And this is a great checklist that we've started to compile with the assistance of some of our estate planning attorneys, as well as our experience in working with the distribution of assets after someone passes away, because part of our service to our clients is after they're, as we say in our opening, after they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we do help them pass them on to the people that they love. And that's the actual mechanical passing of those assets. helping them create new accounts, transfer assets, discussing the most tax efficient way to do things. But there's a whole host of other things that go on when a loved one passes away, and maybe you're responsible for closing out their estate or wrapping up their life, so to speak, on the administrative side. So, Rob, I thought you put together a really nice list of things that are would be helpful if you're in a situation where you're the one in charge.
The first thing I think that would greatly benefit you in this situation is starting a notebook. There's going to be a lot to remember. Dates, people, account numbers, etc., etc., etc.
Questions that you have that you're going to forget.
Writing these things down as they happen will save you from having to remember every small detail, because you're not going to be able to remember every small detail. You're going to have your mind is going to be going in a million different directions at once.
And you're going to get a lot of calls from a lot of different people, so you're going to want to just keep track of things.
Having that notebook, writing things down, being able to refer to it, not having to because it's already going to be a stressful time. So not having to add more stress and more anxiety to that, in you having to remember everything all the time, all at once, is a very, very good place to start, in my opinion.
Excellent. Second?
Get multiple certified copies of the death certificate. 10 to 15 would be a good place to start. A state licensed funeral director or coroner typically prepares and files the death certificate. You will most likely need a certified copy of the death certificate to claim insurance benefits, cancel services, move services into a survivor's name, etc., etc., etc. So if you only get one,
making photocopies of it, unfortunately,
is not going to work.
Won't suffice in most cases. And this would be a question that, if your family member was working with an advisor or you happen to know their attorney, give them a call and just ask if you feel like, 15's a lot to buy. You might be able to get, how many life insurance policies did they have? How many accounts? And each company generally requires either a copy or an original death certificate, so it's important to get that information on the front end, or just to be safe, ask the funeral director to get you 15 copies, 15 certified copies.
Could never hurt.
Right.
And in many cases, it's really going to save you some time.
And this is one we are all not going to enjoy, but you got to do it.
The next one is get the mail redirected.
And I believe, unfortunately, you have to go physically into the post office now to do this. You may still be able to go on to USPS.com and do it, but Dad, didn't you mention when you're having your mail forwarded that you had to go into the post office to do that?
As a matter of fact, we didn't have to do it in Missouri when we changed the forward to here to California, but we did have to go in here to have it forwarded back. So don't understand why, but
so I guess it could depend on the state. It sounds like if you're in Missouri forwarding from one address to another, you can use USPS.com.
Absolutely.
You might want to check out Illinois because we're not necessarily sure about that one.
The next thing, you're going to want to report the death to the relevant agencies, obviously the Social Security Administration, Veterans Administration, or if applicable, the railroad, mine, teacher, retirement organizations.
And that goes along with, contacting their employer or union just to let them know if they hadn't already been notified.
Absolutely.
And it's curious here because, Rob, this is obviously great information for the person that's going to be the executor of the estate. And many of our clients, though, they're starting to do these notebooks, especially writing down contracts, account numbers, etc., on their own, and we're assisting them in doing this so that their beneficiaries are finding that book, that information all put together at one time.
That's a great point, Dad, because I've had 2 clients come in last week that both had newly created trusts, and what I did was I just handed them a few of our cards, one of Rob's, one of mine, and one of yours, and said, why don't you just paperclip this to the trust so if this is the only document they find, they're going to find our names along with it.
Exactly. And Rob, there's a couple of other things I know you wanted to talk about. One real quickly was about contacting relevant insurance companies.
Yes, absolutely. We touched on that a little bit. When a loved one has died and had life insurance, the insurance company or the companies they had the policy with, if there are different insurers, they will need a copy of the certified death certificate to expedite the claim.
Oh, that's a good point.
And there are other types of insurance to consider: health, auto, homeowner. We don't recommend canceling the auto until the car is sold or ownership transferred. Likewise, we don't recommend canceling the homeowner's insurance until the house is sold. We obviously want the asset protected.
That's right. Until it's been transitioned, then that won't be a responsibility of yours. But what should be a responsibility of yours is tuning in next week to listen to us on Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. We'll be back next week. We hope you all have a great weekend.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.